Studio 5. It's a lifestyle change that falls into what is supposed to be known as the golden years. But retirement can be a huge adjustment, especially for your relationships.
So how do you adjust when that 9 to 5 schedule disappears, goes away? Studio 5 relationship coach Matt Townsend says there are 4 crucial conversations that every couple has to have as they get into that situation.
Now they have to start talking because they haven't had to talk for years. And now it's a big deal. Think of this, though. What could be a bigger transition? Maybe babies. So this, by the way, if you're having babies out there, it might be a great time to have conversations as well. If we're getting rid of our kids and they're all empty nesting us, great time, and as well as retirement.
So these 4 that we're talking about could fit any of those transitions, right?
Yeah.
Specifically with the retirement transition, though, is this something you find that couples who have had a healthy, happy marriage their whole life even sometimes hit some skids during this time?
Totally. Game on, because you're used to living your marriage on rails that took you to the same places every day. Well, those rails might be being removed with your job being changed. So now all of a sudden you're pretty free to flow anywhere you want. And if you're not careful, you'll flow downriver without each other, which is never a good idea.
No, we don't want
without those paddles. Okay, let's
so
get into the
4 conversations, okay? And the whole key to this is all expectations are managed in conversation. So we all have assumptions and beliefs, and if we're not talking, we can't manage our assumptions and beliefs and get on the same page. Here's the first one. The first conversation we call the resources conversation. The resources is the reality that without working anymore, your resources are probably going to be cut. If both of you are retiring, you're now going to be running out of money maybe, or not having enough money. You might need to cut back your budgets. You might not even have insurance or the insurance you want. You might have gaps between insurance that we now need to wait for. We need to have a conversation to get on the same page about what are our resources. What does our budget look like? What can we cut back on? Can we keep spending at the same rate we used to? What is the inflow and the outflow of the money? And I would spend a good evening talking about our budget, our money, what are our expectations. Here's some great questions. What does the money flow look like? What needs and wants do we both have? And really delineate what is a need and what is a want. How can we cut back on our expenses? What are some extra activities that we want to budget for every year? Do we want to start traveling? If that's the case, we got to get it in our plan. And should we continue working even part-time?
What's so interesting is this is a conversation, those are questions that you encourage couples to have when they first get married.
Totally.
So it's almost like you're reevaluating the relationship from the very beginning.
So if you think about it, all it is, it's like an airplane that takes off and starts flying. That airplane doesn't just fly from point A to B. It is constantly reevaluating where it is in the air in relation to where it wants to be. All this is one more conversation where we're trying to evaluate where we are at retirement and predict where we want to be.
And often those resources, the money, that's like such a source of conflict in any marriage, any point.
Yeah, and if you wait too long, just like in an airplane, you're going to be so far off course that we may not be able to recover financially.
Okay, second conversation.
Second conversation is called the
time conversation.
Yes, because I didn't remember that. Time conversation. Now, this is a really big one because we have forever just been able to kiss and wave our partner goodbye, and they may have left and we didn't have to deal with them, and they never saw what we did with our time. We never saw what they did. We just escaped.
Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yeah. Then all of a sudden they retire and they see what you're doing every day. And they're like, you've done that for 20 years? That's all you do? So the time's a big deal. So in this conversation, we should probably be getting in pretty deeply to how much time do you need? What is our free time versus our together time? What really matters to you as far as time? Are you a morning person or an evening person? When do you work best? Some questions you might want to ask each other is, what does the schedule look like in your perfect world? How much time would we have together in the perfect day?
So you discuss the ideal.
Yeah, kind of the ideal. I love going from the ideal instead of the horrendous, fearful side.
You don't like to look at the worst case scenario?
I don't like to look at worst case scenarios. It's just better to motivate people that way. Are you a morning person? Stuff like that. Our time's a huge issue. And another thing I think we might run into, there's a lot of people that I don't even know how to manage time, because we've never had to. We knew we had to be at work at 8, and we knew we were there till 5. What do you do when you're home all day? And I don't think we know. So if we're not sitting down talking this through and honestly figuring out how much time of yours do I need? Another key to this is, remember, you can love each other and you don't have to be with each other all day. To love somebody, you can be away from them, and it might even be really healthy for you. So you might want to have a conversation, how much time together, honestly, do we want? And how much time alone do you need? There's some people that need a lot of alone time.
Okay, it's interesting. The first one, money, you're going to have a lot less of. Time, you're going to have a lot more of. So it's sort of interesting. Okay, the third one we got to get to is the distribution of work conversation.
Huge. Now, one person, let's say one person was a stay-at-home, homemaker, worker, and the other went off to work. Well, now he retires. She, I guess, just keeps working. and he's now retired. What a convenient, wonderful life that would be. So we need to have a conversation that how do we now distribute our workload? Or how do we change the things that maybe you were so tired of doing? One of the questions is, what is one activity you would love to quit doing? If you have always done the cleaning in the house, maybe that's an activity. Now that one person's retired, let's switch that role. You take on the role of cleaning the house. I'll take on the role of doing the dishes. This is where we decide who's going to send out the birthday cards. Who's going to pay the bills? And I would really have a conversation, how do we redistribute this workload so we feel like 2 people are now retired instead of 1 person coming to take the life away from us? One other thing is our roles. Our roles are deeply identified. I mean, our psyche is deeply identified with our roles. This is where sometimes there's a problem, because let's say the husband comes home, no longer is working, so he starts doing things that the mother used to do and starts becoming the cook or starts making soup. And is the best soup maker in the world now. So she starts to lose some of her identity.
Yeah.
We got to watch out for that. The whole conversation is about what really matters to you, what doesn't.
But at the same time, you almost have to open up your realm of what is work, because the traditional 9-to-5 businessman might not think of sending out a birthday card as work.
Part of the
so there's that balance between giving people their roles.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Totally.
Good deal.
Jump us to the very last one, the legacy.
Legacy conversation is simply, how do you 2 want to be remembered in 30 years from now? When you die, what do you want people to say about you? Because you know what? Retirement's the time to start putting that game together. How do I want my kids to remember? What motivates us at this stage of our life? What do we want people to say about you at our funeral? What's the most important responsibilities and relationships we have right now? What is the purpose in your life? I would have a great conversation about that and start setting goals and realities about how we're going to leave a legacy as a couple. There's nothing more motivating than being on the same page together about your future. Once we're on the same page in these 4 areas, then we can just pretty much float a little bit. I might come back to them regularly when you see problems, but nothing, I think, of all the conversations, the legacy one's going to be the very best, most important.
Great idea. We'll, of course, put some of these questions on our website so you can actually go through.